Welcome to the House on Fire podcast. Our aim is to light a fire for Jesus in the homes of those who listen through encouragement and equipping. Let's partner together to advance the gospel in the next generation. I am your host, Lucas Jackson, and I am passionate about seeing more people on fire for Jesus. When you listen to the House on Fire podcast, you'll hear from people you can rub shoulders with every week at Bethel Church, because all of our guests are from our church family. These are people striving to love God, love others, and to serve the world. Hey guys, welcome to this episode. Glad you guys are listening. Today we have John and Rachel on. Guys, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Glad to have you guys. Before we dive into talking about college ministry, tell us a little bit about yourselves and your guys' family.
Sure, yeah. We got two wonderful boys, 13-year-old Gabriel, and then a 4-year-old Michael.
Yep. Awesome. Do you have any other family that's close by, or are you guys like all by yourselves up here in Fargo?
We've got some grandmas and a papa in the area.
Okay. Awesome. Well, very cool. Very cool. What do you guys do for work?
Well, I work at the Perry Center maternity home. Bethel has been awesome in supporting us, so we're super grateful for that.
Yeah, and small plug for the Perry Center, because it's actually a really cool ministry. Can you tell us about that?
Safe place for women to stay while they're pregnant and afterward, and we share the gospel, and I love that that's my job, making sure women are safe and hear about Jesus.
Yeah. How long have you been with the Perry Center?
5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
And there was a big addition added last year.
We're growing right now.
2 years ago?
We're moving over we had an addition then, and now we're going to triple in size, and we're super pumped about it.
Did you guys take over like the building just next to you guys? And is it like a 2-story now, or?
Yeah, we're moving in a month.
Okay.
And then our current building is going to be demolished in a 2-story as well.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome.
We want to make sure those mamas have space.
How many folks can stay there at one time?
It's not a specific number. We have currently 9 bedrooms, and we're looking to have 33 bedrooms.
Okay. Wow.
But really just hoping to be able to offer services to more women, with multiple kids. We're going to have conjoined rooms and
that's awesome.
Bunk beds and all sorts of stuff.
It's a really growing ministry, and it serves an awesome purpose. It's fun to see the results. It's fun to see the opportunities. It's a really unique ministry that we don't see anyone else doing in the area.
Yeah. Or
really anyone else doing, all the way out to Minneapolis or further. So it's a very cool opportunity to be a part of.
What I hear is we need to have another episode where we just talk about the Perry Center.
Oh,
that's
it.
I think you hit it.
I'll wait a week at least before I ask for that one after we do this one. So
sounds like a plan.
And then John, what about you, man? What do you do for work?
Yeah, I work at a software company called WEX, and it's in the financial technology sector. I'm an account executive over there.
Yeah, awesome.
Fascinating.
Eyes glaze over.
Hey, it's fine. It's all good. I
think anyone listening to the podcast, we just might have lost them. There.
I mean, maybe, but probably not.
We'll bring them back.
I'm sure they could get at least 2 minutes into this mug before they dial it back.
We'll have to say some exciting words. Cookies, maybe we'll say something that catches people's attention. Birthday cake.
That's true.
There you go. And so maybe we got
helps.
some back there.
That's true. I think you captured the audience back. So, good deal. Which worship service and campus do you guys normally go to? And the reason I ask this question is because sometimes, those who listen, they're like, "Oh, you're John, you're Rachel. Oh, I heard, listen to you guys talk about college ministry stuff." So,
yeah, we go to the Fargo campus. We actually live really close to the Fargo campus.
Yeah,
we typically go to the 9 a.m. service. Yeah. The first service. We've got a 4-year-old who attends, kids functions, but it can depend. Depending on the schedule. Sometimes we'll end up at the later one.
Yeah, we like going to the later one after I help out with kids ministry so that we can actually get fed at the second one. So kind of depends.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Are you guys part of a life group or a discipleship group or a group of folks where you're pursuing the Lord with together? And
yeah, that's it. We are part of, I guess we'd call it a young adults ministry. And interestingly, it was actually birthed out of a college ministry that we did at our last church.
Okay.
So our last church did not have a college ministry. We had a bunch of kids who we had been.
Sorry, when you say kids, you're talking like college age people, right?
Yeah.
Our son, 13-year-old, corrects us as well. Keep it going.
So at the time we were there, we had a bunch of students in high school.
Okay.
And as they were kids, they had been part of different ministries that we had done through the church, but we didn't really have anything for them at the college age. So this was, Rachel, what was it, 10 years ago? No, plus. And we just started a Bible study at our home. And through that, we've developed some really great relationships, long-term friendships, and we still maintain a relationship with that group and usually meet about once a week.
They really feel like family at this point. Our kids have kind of grown up together, and it's been great.
And so we do Bible studies with that group.
That's awesome. I love it. What areas do you guys serve currently right now at Bethel?
I help in kids' church in Mav's classroom, so the 4-year-olds.
Yep.
And I'm currently on the worship team.
Yeah. I love it. My favorite thing, your son and his BFF often are riding their bikes, and when I leave work, I'm like, "What's up, guys?" as I drive by over here. So it's a lot of fun.
We have a few Bethel goers right in our neighborhood since we're all close by.
It is fairly close, which is great that you guys are that close. When did the Lord kind of give you guys a heart and desire for like college students?
I'd say, well, we actually met doing youth ministry at our church. So we were both part of the youth ministry.
Was that Bethel or a different church?
Different church.
Okay, so you're both serving in youth ministry. How old are you at this point?
Early 20s.
Okay.
Early 20s. And I'd say, to answer your question, once I got out of college, college was a tough experience. I mean, at least for my spirituality, it was tough.
Yeah.
I feel like it challenges who you are. It challenges your belief structures. It makes you shape your identity. And I think coming out of that and being in a close relationship with a lot of these, high school students that had been kids in the ministry, there was just such a need, and there was such a longing for a place to follow Christ, a longing for discipleship. It was a really natural fit, and we were able to see awesome results. Right, we were able to see lives changed. We were able to see God move in it, and that's where it really, I'd say, sparked for us.
Yeah, I also had a cool moment outside of that at Bethel, where one of the pastors was challenging us about a group that was serving college students in the cities. And one of the things they said was, when you reach college students, you reach the world, because they go back to their families and share Jesus with them.
Yeah.
And it immediately ignited my heart, and I got really pumped about it again after quite a while. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bethel.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're going to dive more into just kind of college ministry stuff. Going to be our main kind of conversation for today and such. And so what do you enjoy most about serving college students? Because they're like a unique breed. Well, I guess you could technically say that about any phase or generation of folks, but nonetheless.
That age, they're so hungry for, like what John talked about, shaping their own identity and their beliefs that are usually going to go with them the rest of their lives. That's when I was 19, that's when I accepted Christ for the first time. And it was a huge impact on my life, and it changed the trajectory of my life. And I just think it's such a fascinating age to work with. You see them hungry and asking serious questions about, all these different parts of scripture while you're going through. No, it's pretty rare that you see a college student just hanging out, not really paying attention in the middle of a Bible study. And I just love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's awesome. John, would you have anything to add, man?
Yeah, I think the willingness to explore, discuss, debate, like everything's on the table.
Yep.
There's not a lot of off topics. And I think that if I was going to talk to someone who, is older. Maybe they're established in life. Maybe they had a couple of kids. They've been in a job for 20, 25 years. There's not a lot of willingness to really explore debate topics. Sometimes ideas are cemented in their mind, or maybe they got some scar tissue that's covering up some issues. They don't want to talk about this or that. I don't feel like that's the case with, if you're between 18 and 23, 24, 25, you are still cementing a lot of those thoughts and concepts. And so they're willing to debate, discuss, and explore. And it's really fun and interesting to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy. I often say, if I just want to have a great time and feel like a superstar, I'll go hang out with middle schoolers. If I want to go have deep questions that are great, I'm going to go hang out with high school and college students.
Yeah.
But if I want a lot of pushback, more the college age, and I don't say pushback in a bad way.
No, you're going to get the why question.
Yeah.
Or what about this? And a lot of times they're really legitimate, challenging questions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting to me. In my limited experience, it does seem the hunger and the desire to ask more questions decreases as folks get older.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm just thinking obviously in the context of the church. And I don't know if that's because maybe they're still asking questions, but they find the answers on their own. Or maybe they just don't ask. I don't know how, but
I think we have it all figured out.
But it's probably more in that category.
Yeah, and I also
healthy
think
or unhealthy.
The older you get, you continually trade freedom for responsibility, right? So as you age, maybe you pick up a spouse, that's responsibility. You lose a little bit of freedom. Same thing with kids. I mean, these are great aspects to life. They are what makes life beautiful, in my opinion. But it is a trade-off for freedom and responsibility. And so if you are looking at someone who's got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things that are demanding time and attention, you may not have the mental ability to, or willingness or interest to have to answer some of these things or explore them. Plus, maybe they've been burned a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. And so, there's not an, they don't even want to go that direction.
Such a good point.
I jotted down, I was like, man, it's like a sermon title, right? Trading freedom for responsibility.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's got me thinking about a lot of things, John. Mic drop, my friend. You did great.
I think the mic's attached to this table. I can't drop it.
It is.
I'm trying. I'm trying over here.
The folks listening can't see that, but maybe one day we'll.
I'm jumping up and down. If you can imagine me, if you're listening to this, imagine me jumping up and down trying to chuck this mic on. Because for the mic drop, it's over now. The moment's gone.
He don't jump up and down. Don't believe him, folks.
I was going to ask, so I'm glad you clarified for that. Well, for those, if those listening that have been around Bethel a long time, college ministry has looked differently throughout the seasons and the time and that kind of stuff. And so let's just describe a little bit what kind of college ministry looks like. What is it? What's taking place? What's going on? That kind of stuff, so folks can kind of have an idea of what it looks like right now.
Well, we've loved being part of the Bible study, which has been at your house, and we're super pumped to start it at our house so soon. And so that's been a big part of what it's looked like, connecting with the students on a regular basis. I would say my favorite part that I didn't even know was going to happen was now that I'm getting to know these college-age students at church or throughout the week. I see them at different events, and they're like, "Hey, Rachel," and we get to chat. And it's like I have all these sweet new friends. It's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, even just for me, they're on my hit list a little bit, meaning like I'm more aware of them and, I need to reach out to so-and-so. How's so-and-so doing? So it's on my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
I think when I think, what to be aware of, right now there's a Bible study weekly, and, it's at Lucas's house. It'll be at our house soon, but that it's very centered around, deep diving into the scripture. We want to feed, and we want to explore, and we want to answer questions. But that's also an avenue for building relationship and discipleship.
Yeah.
I think that community is super important. When students go to college, it's a very, it's a time when you're exposed to a ton of people, and you can build a lot of new relationships, and you're in this huge community of the college, but also it can be a little isolating. You're also removing yourself from your family unit, maybe for the first time. Maybe you're even literally physically moving away from them. So it can be a bit isolating. And I think part of the function of what I'd like this ministry to be is a community of believers.
Yeah.
And not just a community of believers of their own age, but a multi-generational one where you have the ability to be poured into by people and have the ability to serve and pour into others. So one of the things I'd like to do is, as we do a weekly Bible study, is there opportunities that maybe we can take a week off and go serve, or be a part of another ministry or something like that. So that's what to expect. That's what to know about the ministry.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to meeting with students one-on-one for discipleship, things like that. I think that's such an important aspect as well.
Yeah, and so let's see here, to rewind just a tad. So the last fall and spring, it's been at my place 7 to 9. And then, let's see, we got Mother's Day coming up. It'll be at my place 6 to 8. And then, the Sunday after, whatever that is.
18th?
I think so,
May 18th.
And then it'll be at your guys' place all summer long, so 6 to 8 on Sunday nights.
Yeah, and that first one, we're kicking off with some good food.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be there, so I'll let you know how good it is.
Aren't you the one cooking?
Oh, no.
I thought you were cooking.
This is great.
My go-to is meat.
Cooker of meat. That's what I was thinking.
I was like,
don't judge our cooking of meat.
No worries. My go-to is just, if you're ever worried, just undercook it. You don't want to overcook meat.
Amen, brother.
So you want that thing sweating a little bit if you're...
Amen.
Anyway,
so the next podcast is cooking meat. I feel like we got two solid discussions lined up.
It is a passion of mine. I think it's a big deal. Is it John chapter 20? Jesus tells Peter 3 times, "Feed my sheep." Now, he was not talking. He was talking
about a pork roast.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about meat. He was talking about the scripture and
that's right.
But there is a component in scripture where a lot of things happen around meals.
This is true.
That's how God made us. It's interesting that we have this need to constantly, feed ourselves, and the production of it is kind of hard. You got to put a lot of effort into even making bread or whatever you're doing. So it forces you to come together. Yeah. It's like, I truly feel that's part of God's design, is that we are supposed to be in community, and we have these points of the day where we kind of have to come together.
Yeah. So we can make that happen pretty easily.
It's pretty fun. You want to get closer with someone, you ask them to have food with you. Yeah. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, in our culture today, so we try to have families over, and it usually takes about 6 to 9 weeks to get a date on the schedule. So Rachel's pointing at me right now because it took about that, which is fine.
We haven't set a date yet.
Oh, we haven't set. But I guess it was just me. That's right. I just came over and we just chatted. But we
did. We got together. We just didn't get together over food.
Yeah.
That will be next on the docket.
That was kind of disappointing.
We've done lunch together a couple of times, but we've never done the families together.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Which, we can make that happen. Mm-hmm. Should we take a break right now and schedule that?
We'll be back in 2 weeks after we figure out the dates. No, we'll stay on topic.
No. And that's just emphasizing the fact that just the hustle and bustle of things in the culture and family dynamics are different. So it requires a tremendous amount of intentionality to fight for that community and time with folks. And so, what would you say is the biggest challenge in doing college ministry stuff? And we're, kind of getting started a little bit, but you guys in many ways have been involved in it for a decade, basically, with those that were coming over to your house and, I guess currently still coming over, and they're probably not in college age anymore because it's been 10 years down the road, but
they're all hitting 30,
married and getting kids, and
some
have kids, some don't, some are single, some aren't. We got a blend.
But I would say it's my heart to connect with each student each week.
Yeah.
And that's just hard to connect with everyone on a deep level.
Yeah.
So I would say that's my biggest challenge, and I look forward to being able to connect as much as possible.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're listening, I want to talk with you. If you haven't hit me up this week, it's time.
The chances of you getting some meat apparently out of the deal, some a meal seems pretty high.
Claim it. So
talking to this group,
you guys may need to, I guess we never talked about this, but you may need to factor in the increase of your food budget.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. God provides.
Oh yeah, we love that part.
That's why we bought we wanted to do a whole cow, but my wife thought that was excessive, so we only did half a cow. But which is why we buy it in bulk.
We're right there with you.
Yep.
So
there's going to be more of a cow in our freezer any day now. No joke.
Yeah, we did the same thing, Lucas.
Yep.
That's awesome. But what would you say, John, from your perspective, some of the challenges when it comes to doing college ministry and serving those folks?
I mean, I think it's the pressure. It's the pressure on the age. It's the pressure on the age group. It's all those things we kind of hinted at before and have mentioned, but we haven't deep dived. So if you're in college, you're going to be in a secular environment, and you're going to be in an environment that's demanding you to question or even abandon your faith, reshape who you are. And on top of it, you're going to have new demands on your time, along with the responsibility to manage your time.
Yeah.
That's hard for anyone. And when you're looking at being in a ministry for someone like that, how do you get some time? And then how do you get quality time where you're, it's great to have, some meals together. We're going to have a fire at our place. Mm-hmm. We have a big campfire. We got a trampoline, we'll goof off, a ping pong table. Let's have all the fun. But at some point you do want to make a connection with the person, and you want to say, what do you need? You want to get them in touch with people who love Christ and have the answers. So I think that's the challenge, right? Is making the personal connection in an environment that's really challenging for the individual.
Yeah. Yeah. And some are living at home, some are living on campus, some are doing it like fully online, so there's a variety. It's not the traditional, everyone's on a campus anymore. So it's makes it more unique too. Some are still living at home. So they in a lot of ways, life still probably feels like a high school student because their mom and dad are there, and their mom and dad are probably, taking care of things at the house or whatever. And so just the dynamics of that age isn't a blank, they're not all in the same dynamics or flow or schedule. And so I think it makes it very unique as well.
Yeah. And some of our students aren't current students. They're working, and that can feel really isolating as well. You're away from all those people your age for the first time in your life, and it's a different venue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd also say, interested to hear what you guys say about this. Breaking down the barrier to make an intimate connection with someone, right? Because you can have a surface connection, but really being able to get to a place where you can speak meaningfully into someone's life. Yeah. They're getting that from a bunch of angles. There's a bunch of new people. Maybe they're starting jobs for the first time. A lot of people have jobs at 16, 17. But man, there's a lot of people I know who are 20 years old and, they're full on in the workforce. Yeah. And so they've got all these different perspectives coming in. So I think breaking down those barriers to make meaningful connections is probably a pretty big challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And if the goal is discipleship, that requires relationships, that requires time, getting below surface questions. You're good, bro. It's all good to make some noise here and there. It's all good. It takes time. And then probably about the time that's one thing I've appreciated and loved about the Fargo area is people grow up here and they stick around forever. And I love that. Like, it makes me feel like the town I grew up in, it's like 200 people and you just knew everybody. Like, so this is the first time in ministry the last couple of years that I've actually thought more about college students because I'm like, they're not going away. Now, some of them do. Mm-hmm. They'll go to the cities, they'll go to Northwestern, Bethel. Quite a few Park students will go out to Grand Canyon University, but a ton they just stay in town.
Yeah, I was surprised at the event to just see how many were staying around. Excited. Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh man, like this is the next crop of those who are going to serve in student ministry and kids ministry. And so I view that stage of life differently now due to how folks stick around here than versus like being in Austin, Texas. It was like, I may never see you ever again. Yeah. Even though we're in the same town. So it's been cool. Mm-hmm. What things would a person need to know if they want to get involved in the college ministry? So what are just the bullet points, or like, here's the facts, the things you need to know if someone's listening, or, someone's listening and they text somebody, hey, they got a college ministry, like you should go check it out. What are those facts they need to know?
I'd say, fact number one, come to the, if you are of this age, if you're listening, you're a college student, come check us out at a Bible study.
And what age? I guess
18 through, what are we at,
24.
Lucas? 24?
I think 23, 24.
23, 24. If you're somewhere in that age, if you're around college age, then come check out the Bible study. It's pretty low commitment, low risk. Just that would be the thing to know. Sunday nights, 6:00.
Yep.
With that being said, for everyone else, I bet you know a college person.
Yeah.
I bet there's a college person in your life, and I bet you don't realize how difficult that is of a time of life for them, and how formative it is. Mm-hmm. I know I've kind of keep hitting on that topic, but it really is, right? It's a shape forming, it's a molding time of life. And if you aren't in that age, pray for that person.
Yeah.
Love on them. Connect them with someone who knows Jesus, and connect them with someone who has a community. And if you don't know who that person is, talk to Lucas, talk to me, talk to my wife. We would love to connect with them. We would love to get involved, or just take them out to lunch. What college student do you know that doesn't like a free lunch?
Yeah.
We would love just to spend time on them, not with a hidden agenda, really just to love on that person. So what do you need to know? If you have a college person in your life, get in contact, because we'd love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And if they're interested in becoming part of the ministry as a volunteer, it's just this great opportunity where you get to pour into someone who is most likely hungry to hear and talk about their faith. And like John said, a formative time. And you can just simply check out our Sunday night evening 6 to 8 at our place and see if it's something that God puts on your heart.
Yeah, man. If you want to have an impact on someone's life, if you want to see some amazing change, this is the ministry for you.
Yeah. And I will put in the show notes a link to our webpage on the website, so they can see a little description there, and then they see my cell phone, so they can text to get your guys' address.
Yeah.
So I'll put that in the show notes for folks.
It's great.
And I would agree. I remember, which I probably shared before, my wife and I were dating in college. We went to a church, Moraine Valley Church, in the Palos Heights area of Chicago, the southwest suburb of Chicago. Randy and Lisa Tucker, like, hey guys, you look like college students. Yeah. And okay, you're going to lunch with us. Okay, yes, ma'am. So, and then my wife ended up living with them during her college years. Like, and they wouldn't even let her pay. They're like, no, you live here for free. I'm like, no. And they're like, no. And then, they just, and then, and even when I would take the train out, they were like, you need to bring your laundry, Lucas. And I'm like, no, okay, cool. Yeah, you got it. And I'm like, I'm not bringing my laundry out.
Parents away from home.
And then it went like a week or two, because I'd go out and just to see Melissa like on Saturday, Sunday or whatever. And so we'd go to church together or whatever. And then Lisa was like, I told you to bring your laundry.
Aww.
Yeah, that's nice.
Bring your laundry. Yes, ma'am.
That's nice.
So anyway, and they're actually, and we've, slightly been still connected with them. They help do our premarital counseling. And then are actually kind of helping my wife and I with some like marriage counseling stuff right now. So that's like I was 18 at the time. I'm now 37. And so it all started with those two people like, oh, you guys look like you're in college. You're going to lunch with us. Yes, ma'am. And so that's where that whole thing started.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take much for God to use a interaction like that for some great things to happen. So
I actually had a similar story. Don't have to get deep into it.
Do it.
But
get
a family,
deep. We're on a podcast.
A family who actually lives a few blocks from here did the same thing for me. Let me live with them, poured into me. I was brought up by a family that went to church.
Yeah.
But they were really struggling living out the gospel. And this family wanted me to be able to see what it looked like to be Jesus in the home. This is how you fight when you're following Jesus as a couple. This is how you raise a family following Jesus. I needed it at that age. I needed it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to open up your home and let someone live with you to be part of this. But the fact that there's all these students out there, college age, young adults that just need the example of godly families who can be real and messy. Messy is okay.
Yeah.
We need to know what the mess looks like while you're following Jesus.
Yeah.
So that
authenticity
practice.
is sometimes hard to find in the Christian church, right?
Yeah.
I mean, authenticity is not always on display. We want to be genuine. I mean, it's okay to show all the cracks and the wrinkles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how would you, if someone were to say, hey guys, like, why is a college ministry even important? Like, why do you guys even do that? Like, how would you answer that? Like, we have a college ministry because blank. And there's not necessarily a right answer for that, by any means, but how would you guys go about answering that?
We want to reach the world for Jesus. We want to expand his kingdom. Yeah. And he has shared or let us see that there are people that are hungry for Jesus. And how can we not answer that call?
Yeah, for real. I would add to that. So, Lucas, me and you have talked about this a number of times, right? What's the role of the church here, and what's the role of campus ministries?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just let's dig into that a little bit, because you could argue, hey, there's great campus ministries. Mm-hmm. There's Christian ministries who are in the campuses and they do discipleship and they meet. And, I think of Cru, I think of Chi Alpha. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, lots and lots of them. Yeah.
And that's great. We don't want to take anything away from that.
Yeah.
But also, when I think of a church and a church's calling and its responsibility to its community, what are we called to do? We're called to equip. We're called to make disciples, and we're called to serve our community.
Yeah.
For all of you podcast listeners out there right now who are not in Fargo and you're not familiar with Fargo, we're a bit of a college town.
Oh, yeah. I haven't done the numbers, but it's got to be like 30 or 40,000.
Yeah. I mean, you've got NDSU, there's at least 10 to 20 grand. Who knows? But anyways, we've got a fairly large college population. We've got 3 large colleges and then a bunch of other smaller ones. So we have a college, we have a big community. We have a big, what am I trying to say?
In that age
population.
Bracket.
In that age bracket, right?
Yeah.
And those ministries are good. And I think they do a good job of connecting college people with other college friends. And then there's usually maybe a pastor or some leader, usually fresh out of college, who are serving that population.
Yeah. With discipleship.
In
someone who has a similar age to you.
But what I think that's lacking, what I think is missing, is the connection to the local community church.
Yeah.
What is the church doing to get connected with those individuals? Who is serving them? Is there a connection point to bridge from the isolated, insulary community of the college itself into the greater Christian community and secular community within the, So I think that's the function of this. How can we provide a family of believers to those, students who are in their age? And how can we plug them in with the bigger community? Like, I would love to see us serve. I would love to see us be involved and be impactful. Also, I think it's a way to provide multi-generational community to those individuals.
Yeah.
That's kind of an insulary group, right? If you're on campus or off campus, and you're in college, can be a little, insular. I can't think of another way. Yeah. You don't have a lot of experience outside of that group, and so I think that's also important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think just like the amount of folks who have a different way to provide or serve that are just down the road a lot farther, it's going to look way differently than if you're in college. And yeah, it makes me think of just, I've been reading Ephesians quite a bit here in my quiet time. And so Ephesians 4:11, and he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and the teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ until we all attain to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. I mean, the whole book of Ephesians is super legit. So, and that's a high value for my philosophy of ministry. I mean, this is a biblical mandate. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter what your philosophy is. This is a mandate of the church to do, to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And so, wouldn't want to miss out on doing that for college folks.
Yeah, and just to double down on that. So let's say I go to church service. It's a Sunday morning. Pastor Andy has another killer service, another killer sermon. But, the sermon ends, Sunday's done, and then you look on the crowd and there's a bunch of college students, or there are a few. I mean, how are we servicing them? How are we connecting with them? How are we discipling and changing their lives?
Yeah.
Do we want to outsource that to a ministry? Do we want to entrust that to some other entity other than within our walls? Not to be, that we have to own everything, but I think it's part of our mandate, like you just said. And then to take that one step further, if you have a parent who says, hey, my kid's been going to your youth group all throughout high school. It's been a difference maker for them. It's been great. Where do they go now?
Yeah.
They're graduating. What happens now? And then you can be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he can find a college ministry. Like, I don't want that to be the answer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I get it. Cause I totally forgot. This was kind of a last minute thing. I had like 4 parents text me. I don't know. It was school starts now. It's like early August. Hey, my son or daughter, they graduated student ministry, they're still around. Like, what do they go do next? And we do encourage folks to be involved in life groups and stuff. There's just not a lot of them for younger folks. And not that there's not, I mean, ours is very multi-generational, which I love. And so, yeah. And by the time I got the 4th text that week, I was like, okay, God, I don't have time for this, but we're doing something. We're going to do something. And so that's kind of where the little life group formed out of.
And that's how you talked to me about it. Cause I went to your life group and we were having a chat about, needs and where you're at. And I was
about you and your wife taking over half our folks. And
I was like, how many life groups do you got? Lucas, this is getting out of hand, man.
Well,
and then I found out that you just started one because of that
need.
Question.
Yeah.
And if the question is, hey, who's going to feed my kid? In asked in a different way, but hey, I've got a graduating senior.
Yeah.
Who's going to feed my kid? Who's going to take care of that? And it's like, man, I want the church to be able to do that. Man, I want to be able to, service that group.
Yeah. And not to say that we somehow can do it better than other. It has nothing to do. My thought process is like, well, as a church, our mandate is to disciple and to care for those God brings us. So if this is who God brings us, if that's one or whatever, the number doesn't matter at all. Yeah. But if they're here, we want to care for them and do the best that we can. And I guess it would probably be helpful to share some context. So our adult life group has multiplied once and it needs to multiply a few more times. And so I've been headhunting and asking folks and you were on my hit list somehow. And so basically I was like, hey, John, I think you and your wife need to come to our life group. And let's say over 3 or 4 months down the road, then you guys can take half these mugs because our group's too big.
It was a total God thing because we were currently praying about a life group.
Yeah.
And we're very pumped to be invited.
And so it was just, that's how that orchestrated. And then, and then we start talking more. And then I don't know, just randomly felt like I should ask John about college ministry. I think maybe you were just there. Maybe Rachel, you weren't there that night.
I was there and you asked me about it in was it that night or the night before?
No, that Sunday before, that's when I heard someone at Bethel speak about if you want to reach the world, reach out to college students. And I told John, I don't think we can do a life group. I think we need to do a college ministry. And he was like, I think just talk to you, and had the same.
No, it was before. So
thought.
Sunday night. So your life group's on Monday night.
Yeah.
And Sunday night, you talked to me about it. I was like, I don't know. We just talked to Lucas about maybe, doing a life group. And then I get to there. I hadn't talked to you. You're like, hey, have you thought about doing a college group instead? And I'm like, all right, God, I guess you got us signed up.
And this was on John's heart to do college ministry since we got married. He's been begging that we could do college ministry, which we did back then. And then they grew up.
Yeah.
And so
it was
deep
pretty
dive
cool.
That
a little bit?
Yeah, pretty cool timing though of God.
Yeah. And actually, for anybody listening that's like, I've got a deep passion for whatever it is, you should totally text me right now. Because if I would have known that, I mean, I've only known you for 2 years, 2.5, whatever.
I was keeping it hid on purpose.
But if I would have known,
you want to expose that too quickly.
If I would have known 10 years ago, I'd be like, John, let's get this going, bro. I got your back. Let me put some wind in the sails here for you, homie. So if anybody's listening and they're like, oh, I've got this passion, desire to do blank, you should text me right now.
Build a canoe. If you're the guy who wants to build
whatever it is, we'll figure out. We'll mobilize you for the advancement of the Lord in some format or fashion. So,
but look what God did. He took care of it.
He figured it out.
But still, text Pastor Lucas right now.
But you want to dive in a little bit deeper here.
And so just to touch on that. So when I was out of high school, tried a couple different professions. I, went this way. I got my firefighting certifications, went to school for that for a hot minute. Went back to work, ended up back in college, really was unsure what I was going to do. Right. There's a couple organizations that really caught my attention, and I wanted to go this pre-law route. And so I could work with an organization called IJM, super cool organization. You can check it out. It's International Justice Mission. But got plugged into a pre-law route, which is very, a lot of philosophy classes. Loved it. I mean, I think I did well in it, but it was a super challenging time for my faith. Like I was going through all this, struggles with, not enough cash, trying to work, trying to go to school, and then presented with all of these new ideas. And I really had no way to defend my faith. That there's that famous apologetics, verse that everyone who loves apologetics quotes, and it's always have a reason.
Yeah. 1 Peter 3:15.
Thank you. Yeah. Defense for the hope that you have.
Yeah.
Which is good and appropriate, but I just didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was introduced with thoughts and challenges that I couldn't answer. I'd grown up in the church. I felt pretty confident in the church. I felt confident in my faith, but then, there were certainly cracks and seams there, and there was things I just couldn't answer. And the more of those I got, the harder it got. And then if you crank up the pressure with time and work, you've got college professors who are people that you genuinely look up to, at least academically, at least intellectually, you look up to them.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't have an answer for this. And then someone asks you this, but what about this? And they just blatantly blow you out of the water. And you're like, I got nothing, man.
Yeah.
You can only do that so many times before just chunks of my faith started dropping off. Like, well, I'm definitely believing God, definitely Christ, but maybe this section of our church's teaching probably, I don't know. And kind of back away from that. And that happens more and more until your faith gets so tiny. And you're at some point, what was happening to me is I couldn't get anywhere past the thought of just believing in a God. That was about all I had left. I believed in God. I couldn't take away that thought, but Christ's divinity came into question. I believed he was a person, but man, did he really raise from the grave? There's a lot of arguments against that and all this, other stuff, and the role of the church through the history. That was something that was brought, that I really didn't expose myself to until college of the role of church history. So all this stuff was brand new. It was really challenging. God brought me through it. To take a long story short, he built that up and he provided me awesome contacts through the years. But that's kind of where all this passion comes from, right?
Yeah.
Is the realization of how important those years are, and being able to provide, resources for that age.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the nice thing that, by, what I've seen in the college ministry so far, like they ask a lot of those questions and we talk about.
Yeah. You're getting them.
We talk about a lot of that stuff, which is, it's been encouraging.
So why we're there.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the unique opportunities of having a college ministry? We touched base just a little bit on challenges, but what are some of the unique opportunities that, and there probably could be a long list that we could exhaust forever, but what would be some of those things that you would see that could be taking place because of the fact of having a college ministry in the context of our church?
We touched on this a little before, but I'm really passionate about the fact that a college ministry on campus, a campus ministry, is great. And I experienced that when I first came to the Lord when I was 19, and I loved it. It was so exciting. All these people my age excited for Jesus. And I was so hungry as a new believer for discipleship.
Yeah.
And I looked around, and the leaders were just a few years older than me. And I'm not saying that's the same in every campus ministry. That was just my experience. But I looked all over for someone to disciple me who had like larger experience than me, who had been there, done that a few times over. And I could only find it in a local church. And it was really these families in a local church that really took me in and showed me that deeper practicality in my faith.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's just such a great opportunity. When we're doing college ministry, we don't just want to talk about the Bible. We want to, but we also want to be able to share about how you do life in a practical sense and be there for college age students in the hard times and in the good times. And we want to be able to be those calls in the middle of the night if they're struggling with depression, anxiety, fear, all that stuff that's happening right now with the youth. And I'm pumped about it because God, He's the way maker. He's got he's got such good plans for these students.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. And it's, when I think about many of the questions that college students will ask, we talk about schedules a lot. We talk about the Trinity a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. That was a tough one for me, right? You're in college, you're trying to understand the Trinity, and someone challenges you on it. You're like, oh man, that's a tough, that's a tough answer to.
Yeah. We talk about like finances a lot and even insurance. Like one of the students got in a wreck and I was like, hey, just back in my mind, I'm like, y'all got insurance, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, there's this card that should be in your glove compartment.
You're going to want to get that.
You need that. Like how many of you, and so just some of those practical things that I'm like, it's just beneficial, fun, life on life conversations, which is fun to have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Now that you mention that, there is such a breadth. I remember doing we went through, there was a period of time we were going through different books of the Bible with a college group. And then we switched and we did like a personal finance, you know, like, hey, you should probably know what like a mortgage is, what our 401ks are, like these HSAs, these are things you probably need and you're going to want to know how they work.
Yeah.
Also, how to interview for an adult job. We had, if he's out there listening, we won't say your name, but one of the guys said he had a job interview and it was actually at the same business at the same agency John was working at. And John got so pumped and he was like, okay, tell me how it went. And so the guy's talking about it and he said, yeah. And then I got to this one question and I just, I didn't know the answer. So I said, pass. And we all just looked at him. We said, no, you can't say that. And he said, but I saw it on YouTube. They said it was okay.
It's like if you don't know an answer in an interview, just say pass.
And we said no. So from that moment on, we just said, hey, anyone that's going to have a job interview, come and practice with us first.
Yeah.
You'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
We'll do all that practical stuff. We're ready.
I'm just trying to think anywhere else in life, in any category, have I ever just been, oh, no thanks. My kid wants dinner. Pass.
I don't feel like making it.
I hit somebody in front of me, because I wasn't pass.
If only that would be great.
So interviewing was a topic of one of our Bible, quote unquote Bible studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the practical life things we need to know.
That's another
to
podcast
be an adult.
Episode. Pass.
Hey man, if you're out there, you know you are. Give me a ring. I haven't heard from you for a while. I would love to see your name.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we've all had plenty of
all done
moments
those
like
things.
that. So I'm gonna remember that one. So
yeah, just nice when we can laugh about them together.
Yes,
he let us do that one day. So
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. How do you approach connecting with students who may be unfamiliar or like resistant to religious faith? And I think the reason I like this question is because I love it. Oh, it's so weird, but I love it when people are like, I hate God. I'm like, cool, man. Yeah, you do. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Like that's not off-putting to me. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
That's funny.
Because I'm just like they may, I don't know, they may be church, they may not, but like they really hate God. Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. I want to talk about that.
Do you start the like conversation and you try to like kind of pick apart their reasons?
No, I just ask a ton of questions.
Yeah.
I ask a ton of questions, and
I'm right there with you.
I just finished going through the book of Matthew, and I should have kept track how many times Jesus asked a question, but he asked a lot of questions.
Yeah,
and there's been folks who have done the math. I think it's like 300 or 400 questions maybe Jesus asked that are just recorded.
Wow. Yeah,
sure.
And which there's definitely more than that he actually asked. That they're just not everything's recorded, and so, I usually just ask a ton of questions because in my mind I'm like, man, I'm not gonna. It doesn't bother me, like sometimes like, they'll cuss. Oh, my bad, bro. Like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have cussed for him. I'm like, well, it's like, cause they're like we were a pastor, like as if the word's going to hurt me. I'm like, I can handle it, man. I mean, I'd rather you not.
I've heard that one before,
but but I'm like, it's fine. Like it's all good, bro. I'll get over. I'm gonna sleep good tonight. It's okay. So anyway, I usually just ask a lot of questions. I usually don't try to, If I'm trying to maybe pinpoint an area where I'm like, oh, I totally disagree with that, which happens a lot. I mean, I disagree with myself, I feel like enough. So, I'm like, yeah, this guy's in good company. So I'll usually will ask the question related to maybe something that they said. Like one I hear often is like, oh, I'm just trying to figure all this life stuff out by myself. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's not what the Bible says. And,
well,
but
you don't
can
have
ask,
to, man.
how's that working out for you?
Yeah. So then
And
I'm
then
like,
get into it.
how well is that working?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. And the answer's almost always the same, not very well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, do you think maybe we should try something else? Maybe like, what are some other options?
Yeah.
So instead of being like, hey, that's dumb, which I say dumb things or whatever. So instead of just, because that ends the conversation.
Right.
Because the
it's
moment,
insulting and it's difficult.
Hurtful.
So now even for me as an adult, when someone's like, oh, that's really stupid. In my mind, I'm like, well, you really just took the relationship to another level here, didn't you, buddy?
Yeah.
Like,
see you later.
In my mind, I'm like, well, how do you think this is going to go moving forward? Because you like insulted me because you didn't like it. So anyway, so instead of doing all that, I just ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah, agreed.
That are just, and oftentimes it's like, just tell me more. Oh man, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, why is that the case? Like, they're not like hard questions. Like, if that person's brought that topic up, I'm just, so it's not like deep questions. I'm just trying to pull more of it out of them.
Yeah.
And so, but to go back to the question, like, how do we approach connecting with students who are unfamiliar or resistant to religious faith? The reason I think this question is important is because I don't want us to ever be at the point where we're like shun people who are like that, in terms of like they are anti-God or they just got tons of questions. And I don't think we've but
that shouldn't even be that. Like that thought shouldn't be in our minds, right?
I totally agree.
That's the exact opposite of what you'd want to do.
Yeah.
I love this type of opportunity with someone for a couple of reasons. Like you talked about, asking questions can bring out the truth of what someone believes to light, and they are starting to hear themselves say it, and usually the questions lead them to confirm what they believe or see the holes in what they believe. Yeah. And I'm there to, of course, lead them toward Jesus, but so often those questions are shedding so much light on what they believe. It sometimes pulls out the absurdity and like contradictions that they are starting to say out loud for the first time and realizing in that moment. And it's kind of a beautiful moment. Yeah. And then you have that opportunity to share some solid truth.
Yeah.
Also, I just love that moment of finding connection with people. Working with women at the Perry Center who come from different faiths, it is so often a beautiful moment where you get to hear them share something that you come into the room thinking you have these totally different beliefs, and you realize there's so many similarities, and God has strung his truth through all these different religions of the world, and you get to discover them together in this moment that really ties you in. And the goal, of course, is closer to Jesus and closer to the gospel. It's very exciting to be part of those moments. I just love those opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I think about your question, what I'm trying to say is my thought process is a little different in that my goal is just to build a relationship, right? The Holy Spirit is alive and well, and he convicts, right? He is the one who leads us. I am comforted in the fact that there's nothing John Antone can do, and to save someone's soul. Thank God.
Thank God.
In the relationships I've had, where I've had close friends who have had serious doubts about the faith and have just walked away, or some have, dedicated their life and have really cool stories. And we can get into that. That's a whole nother podcast. Yeah. Usually, there's like legitimate concerns. There's legitimate questions. People, maybe they come from very broken and abusive lives, really, really difficult scenarios, and they're having a hard time meshing the idea of a good God with the life that they've had. Yeah. Or maybe they've been presented some really challenging aspects of like, a scientific argument, or they've just grown up in a completely atheist or agnostic point of view where, they don't even understand the reason you'd have to have a moral truth. Like, why does your moral truth have, what does that have to do with me? Yeah. Why do we even have to have an absolute truth? When when that's the case, the questions, I think that's a really good place to start. But then I'm just about the relationship. Like, let me into your life, because I know God's going to do it. And at some point he's going to, make it happen. He's going to bring the wheels of motion and bring some resolution there. So, I mean, how do you do it? I think it's a long game. It's a long-term game. And you continue to present great information, and you present how God has worked in your own life.
Yeah.
There's, can I go off topic just a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was reading an NBA article unrelated to college ministry.
That's okay.
And it references, there's a team that they're talking about that has, it's just this sum is greater than its parts.
Yeah.
Right. They mesh really well together as this NBA team. And they reference this art of pottery making, a Japanese art of pottery making. I can't remember the name. But the whole idea is that if you have a broken pot, it's a way to mend the pot. And instead of trying to hide the cracks, I don't know if anyone has had this happen to them where they break like a mug and they try to get the handle back on.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to take, the old bowl and they're trying to glue it back together. You're trying to get the seams to all line up perfectly, and you want to make it look, as close to new as possible.
Yeah.
The idea of this art form is that you make the cracks really large, that you emphasize the brokenness, and you fill the cracks in. What you use to mold it all back together is this gold-plated lacquer. And so when you look at this vessel, whatever, a bowl or whatever, it's laced with these lines of gold. And the more broken it is, the more gold there is.
Yeah.
And it's emphasizing the beauty of the history and how it's joined together now. And it's become stronger. And man, that is such a good example of what Christ does in our life, right? Like over time, if we're vulnerable and authentic with people, they're just going to see our brokenness, but Christ in it. That Christ is that, gold-plated lacquer that shines through in our weaknesses. That's, that verse from Paul. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think that if you have those relationships with people who don't have a relationship with Christ, have serious questions about it, or fighting against it, just be authentic, because Christ does move in our life, and that's obvious. Like that fruit of the Spirit speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Preach it. Preach it.
If somebody was listening like, oh, I think I want to get involved in this ministry, which we have not even talked about at all. Like, what would be, someone's like, hey, I want to come alongside. I want to help. I can meet one-on-one with students, or I can, whatever it may be. What would you, how would we answer that?
Oh man,
as
there's
process
so
out
many
loud right now.
Yeah,
hit us out. Hit us up.
There's a million ideas, right?
Connect with us. We want to connect you with them.
Yeah. Absolutely. First and foremost, exactly what you said. But there's opportunities like, I know, Lucas, you've mentioned going to Passion. They do an awesome conference.
Yeah, we're going again, January 2026. I'm looking at our board up here, and it's on the schedule to go again.
1st through 4th, it looks like.
Yeah, we will end up leaving Wednesday, December 31st, and we'll come back January 4th. So it's on the books. I've been talking about it. We took 11 of us last year and trying to take more this next year. So,
man, if you want to see some life change, that's a great opportunity. If you're hearing this, and you're like, yeah, let's get involved. Let's do this. That's an opportunity to step in.
Yeah.
We also talked about trying to do some events over the summer. I don't know, something fun, maybe a lake place. If you got a lake place and you're like, hey, I've got a lake place and I'd love to service these college kids, maybe we could come out there and, Lucas will grill. I'm just signing you up for every opportunity there is to grill.
It ain't going to be tofu, that's for sure. I had that one time and I was like, oh.
It's all right.
If you're vegetarian, I will make something for you.
Yeah,
I just want them to know.
Yeah, we'll serve you too. Just you matter
them
too.
To know.
Just
you matter too.
You matter as well.
But then, also discipleship. If you have a heart for discipleship, there's gonna be opportunities. I guarantee you that if this is on your heart, God has a place and person for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought for years, 14 years. So I've heard of some churches that will like partner a college student up with the family. And there's like weekly communication,
smart.
Oh, I love that.
And so that's kind of where I got the idea.
Laundry facilities, maybe, who knows?
Just the list of perks. I love the concept of parent privilege. My kids receive all the privileges from my wife and I. Now, and that looks different for every, whatever assets or skill sets or whatever we have, our kids have access to that. Yep. Now, there's some we lack in, and there's other families that list of privileges looks differently than ours.
Yeah.
And so I often think for us, like, what does it look like for a college student to be able to tap into those, to kind of be adopted into the family, which is where I got that idea of, like, when we give the Don't Waste Your Life books to the graduates at our senior celebration we just had. And I'd say, we give a little Starbucks gift card in there and, hey, take somebody out to coffee and tell them to pursue you for the next 4 years of your life weekly, either, via text or face-to-face if you're, in the same town or whatever. So anyway.
Yeah, that was life-changing for me. That's what that family did.
Yeah.
They gave me privileges of their family and it changed my life.
This is this is solid. This is a concept. I don't know if we can formalize this. Adopt a student. I don't know. How do we formalize this? Because you're right. That gives you an intimate connection with someone. And it, if you have a passion or an opportunity or it's on your heart to disciple, there's people who have both physical and spiritual needs that are right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've even I've talked to a few families from church. We've yet to implement it, but we've got interns that will come in. We've got an intern coming in this summer. Well, we have 4 or 5 interns, but one of them is going to live with my wife and I in the basement. Okay, it sounds bad, like living in the basement.
It's got a very nice basement.
It's a nice basement. It's fine.
It's finished. It's carpet.
Yeah.
There's only a couple dead rats down there.
Zero.
Not that I've found. Maybe you found them.
Stains on the concrete aren't that bad.
Okay.
So we're just like excited to have, there's actually going to be 2 guys staying. One guy's only staying a month and the other guy's staying all summer. And so we're excited about that and just the opportunity to be able to serve him and things that, he's got going on and all that kind of stuff. So
that's great.
Well, let's see here, wrap up our time. Any other things that you guys would like to share about college ministry? I could ask another 50 questions, but
just want y'all to know we're excited.
Yeah.
We're excited about this next step of our lives and what God's going to do in all of your lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I'd say the one thing, if you're listening to this at this point of the podcast, you're like, you were an hour in to a Bethel Church podcast, which 1, I applaud you. And 2, I'm just going to ask for your prayers. Yeah. That is the most effective thing. You brought up parent privilege. I love that idea. That's the privilege we have with Christ, right? Yeah. We were adopted into God's family. Yep. There's limitless resources.
Yep.
That's what we need. If we have something that we've felt God is leading us to do, I need those resources, and not not Lucas's, not mine. We covet your prayers there. So pray in disciplers, pray in students, pray in opportunities. That's my last thought there.
And we want connections with students like all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this ministry to grow. And
I mean, there's huge opportunity here. I think we can look at this as a Bible study, which is what it's going to start with. Yeah. This is what it is now. It's a Bible study. There is opportunity there to grow this into a larger ministry, with opportunities to connect, maybe servicing the community, maybe elsewhere. But there's also opportunity to partner with some really great college ministries. We don't have to be separate and apart.
Yeah.
So how can we be a resource to Christian ministries in the area that are doing great work, like Cru and Chi Alpha?
Yeah.
Or how can they partner with us and connect graduating students? They know they got students graduating. They know they got students leaving their program. They're not associated with the church. Yeah. Like, hey, there's people at Bethel who love you. There's people who Bethel who'll feed you and connect with you. So. There's great opportunity here.
Yeah, it's a great idea too. Just it's been fun to get to know some of those who are serving in college ministry stuff, FCA and the others that you mentioned, Chi Alpha Crew. And one of the things that I got a postcard a couple summers ago from Cooperstown Bible Camp. And if a student goes to their camp, they find out, where that student lives. And if they don't have a home church, they send a little postcard with the information of that particular student. So then I, as somebody who is a part of a local church, can reach out to that person. And that they live fairly close to us. So that's why he did that. And I was like, so part of me is like, why is this mug sending? I mean, I know Adam out there. I was like, why is this mug sending me this? You know, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who this and I was looking at it, I was like, oh, because they don't have a home church.
They don't have a church.
So it was his way of learning about this student that went out to camp. And then he's like, well, I need to let a local church know that this person exists. And so I was like, that's a sweet idea. So anyway, so when he's talked about like the connections of even going into those ministries and on the back end of going out of those ministries, like what does it look like to connect those folks?
Because again, they've got a great mission and purpose, and I think they're doing it well.
Yeah,
I don't want to take anything away from them, but also there's gaps there, right? And how can we partner with them to say, hey, Christian community is not only important; it's what we're called to do.
Yeah,
you're each one of us, and so how do we do that better? And how do we plug in? And wouldn't it be sad if we have generation of kids who graduate from high school and never really get plugged in?
Yeah.
Because I know, I mean, I went to a Christian middle school, and then I hopped over to public high school, grew up in a Christian home. All my friends were Christian. And I don't know, at this point, maybe half are still walking in the faith. Yeah. Maybe half have a firm developed faith, and the other half just kind of floated off, throughout the years. Wouldn't it be sad if we have a group, so, we finally get them into college or plugged into ministry, and then after that, they just kind of float off because life is hard and there's no connection point. That's what we want to solve. Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes me think about my college years a little bit. I remember I was maybe gone 6 months. I went to seminary at Moody, and so I remember having a conversation with, I don't know, maybe it was Joe, who's my father-in-law now, but I was dating his daughter at the time. And I think I was getting some addresses to send out some support letters for a missions experience. I think that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And he was just asking me how I'm doing, how things are going or whatever. But a cool thing that the church did was they kind of kept a list. And I don't know, there may have been 10 of us, 6 of us that graduated in my class from the church or whatever, that were involved in church or whatever. And they sent us like a care package once a month or once a semester, which was super cool, So it was like their small way to try to like kind of keep in touch and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember having this thought one time. I had 3 or 4 youth pastors in my tenure in high school. And I remember thinking to myself, why is my youth pastor not following up with me? Mm-hmm. Now, I was very immature. Well, probably still am. Very judgmental. And it wasn't so much, not so much of a judgmental component, but I was like, man, I really wish that my youth pastor would have just stayed in touch. Or stayed in touch. Like just, if that was just a text message or whatever. Now, being in ministry and now understanding like what that would have really taken, I now understand.
The hundreds or thousands of individuals that accrue over the years.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's just not, that sounds great on paper, that's not feasible. But I just, when I think about having a college ministry, we have folks who now that's like on the radar to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's like a passing off a little bit here of like, even if we don't ever see that, I don't know, James, whatever, we don't have a James, but let's say he was a senior this past year and graduated. And what does it look like to try to continue to connect with that person, even if they never come?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just so they know that there's somebody praying for them. And, if they need anything, hey, we're here if you need anything.
Yeah.
And not for our benefit. Like that's one thing I love about church world versus like salesmen. Like I don't want anything from anybody. I just want what God wants for you. Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you XYZ. I mean, there's some biblical mandates and things, but like I often tell people I don't want anything from you. I just want to help you. So what do you tell me what you need? I'm not here to sell you anything. So that's the thing I love about ministry stuff. It's like I don't have a product to sell you.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to tell you about the Savior who wants to do all he can to radically transform your life. And so,
and your experience speaks to the importance of that, right? Maybe it's unrealistic to expect a youth pastor to follow up with every student graduating their high school over the years.
Yeah. So if you're a youth guy out there listening and you're feeling like a loser right now, I want to encourage you. You're not. You're not. Okay. Because
that's realistic.
That's how and I've realized there's not enough hours in the day to literally do that.
Mm-hmm.
You said a phrase. I hate that this is coming so late in the podcast because it's such a good phrase. But you talked to me about if we're going to do this, how can we be intentional about following up with people who are part of a Bible study?
Yeah.
And you use the term, not many people get pursued like that.
Yeah.
As far as intentional follow-up. And again, not with a motive.
Yeah.
With a motive of love.
Mm-hmm.
And so that experience you had speaks to the importance of how do we ensure we fill that need.
Yeah.
That we pursue people like God pursues us.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. I totally agree.
And we can do that when we fill up with God first. So,
amen.
Just the reminder, if you feel like you don't have anything to give to anyone, you got to go to God and get filled first.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate your time and eager to see what's going to happen. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the House on Fire podcast. Our prayer is that this podcast activates your home for Jesus. May the light of Christ burn bright through you and yours. Until next time.